Hello, everyone. This is Yeshua said my name. I hope you're doing well today. There are so many people in the Protestant denominations, in my opinion, that have sold out to the Vatican and Rome, have sold out to this ecumenical interfaith heresy that is going on. I'm going to be mentioning two people today primarily. I'll be reading articles about these two gentlemen that I believe have sold out to the ecumenical movement, the compromise of the gospel once delivered to the saints. However, there are some other pastors that I will be mentioning that I feel are have abandoned the gospel once delivered to the saints and are aligning themselves with the papal system in Rome. And some of them are Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen, and that's just to name a couple. But the one I'm going to be mentioning today, or at least one of the two I'll be mentioning today, is Rick Warren. And an article came out from Pulpit and Pen, and I'll put the link down for you in the description section of the video. Pulpit and Pen states here of Rick Warren, calling it a school of tares, Tares. Now, Jesus gave the parable of the wheat and the tares. The wheat are those who belong to him, the born again Christians, and the tares are those who are of this world and do not belong to him. So, in this opening statement here, it's asking School of the Tares, question mark, Midwestern Baptist Seminary partners with Rick Warren's Saddleback Church. A seminary education is both theological and professional. Not only are seminary students taught biblical languages, church history, systematic theology, hermeneutics, apologetics, which I love apologetics, they are taught how to run an organization, specifically a local church. That is why it's so disturbing to see that Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary has partnered with Rick Warren and his megachurch to form what it calls the Saddleback Track. And on this page here that I'll show you, and I'll give you a link to it, it shows what this Saddleback Track is all about. Now, Rick Warren was the one who authored, several books on, the purpose-driven life and the purpose-driven church. The church that I went to a few years ago did this program, and the Lord had me stay away from it, honestly. He had me doing other things while our church at the time. I don't attend this church any longer, but at the time, a few years ago, when Rick Warren's study was being given, the Lord had me doing other things and kept me away from it. And I felt a strict no in my spirit from him about having anything to do with this program at all. It says here, Warren's brand of seeker-sensitive, growth-oriented church organization is downright secular, and it is. And if you need to entertain the masses or draw them in with fine-sounding speech and sugarcoat the gospel with honey and compromise the truth of God in order to bring people in, there's something wrong with that. When Jesus preached the truth and he preached the gospel, it said people would turn back and not follow him anymore, that they would call him a heretic, a blasphemer, that they said he was demon possessed and would turn back and not follow him anymore. They threatened to kill him. But did Jesus change his message in order to win more people over? No, he stuck to the truth of the gospel. And in these last days, we are having people that are falling away from the faith, the true faith, that was once delivered unto the saints by Jesus Christ himself, and compromising with the secular world. So it says here, Warren's brand of seeker-sensitive, growth-oriented church organization is downright secular. The documentary Church of the Tares provides an in-depth examination of Warren's unbiblical method of church growth. And there's a video on here that will show you about that. It says here, that Warren has made popular the creation of church organizations marketed towards non-Christians. And he's well known for what people say is Chrislam, trying to say that Muslims and Christians worship the same God and trying to unite the ecumenical movement, not only with Rome, but with Islam as well. It says here, let me see, Warren is an ecumenist who embraces the Roman Catholic Church, having even referred to the pontiff as our pope, quote unquote. His best-selling book, The Purpose-Driven Life, has been wisely criticized for its inconsistent application of Scripture. Warren, who is an arguably semi-Pelagian, has already been honored in a stained glass window at the chapel of Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. Now, another Southern Baptist seminary is including Warren's church in professionally training young pastors. See, this is concerning. And I did a video recently, a couple of videos actually, of how the Baptist churches are now aligning themselves with the Pope in Rome. And a couple of weeks ago, I did videos on this, how they were meeting up with the Pope at the Vatican. And whenever, in my opinion, you have leadership, whether it's the great men of the earth, Revelation calls them, presidents, kings, whatever, even leaders of different denominations, all going to the Vatican. That is showing submission to the Pope of Rome, believe it or not. It's not that he is going to them, they are coming to him, to the Vatican, and that is showing submission to this papal system. The constituents of Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary should be concerned, to say the least. Seminary President Jason K. Allen and Director of Content Strategy Jared Wilson should be called to account for this partnership with Warren. So Warren is noted for his ecumenism, his partnering with the Vatican, as well as compromising with Islam. I want to go over to an article also about a gentleman named James White, and it says he preaches about himself at G3, defends Islamic interfaith dialogue again. And this article is again from Pulpit and Pen, and I will give you a link for that down below. It says here, James White preaches about himself and defends Islamic interfaith dialogue. Demonstrating an uncanny ability to make most things revolve around himself, as well as the inability to let things go, James White used the stage at G3 to defend his ill-advised interfaith dialogue with a radical Muslim extremist who White insists is a moderate, despite the evidence, and his name is Yasir Kahadi. White, who recently resigned his position as an elder at a confessional Baptist church to serve in the position of scholar in residence, okay, and the article says whatever that means, dismissed concerns about militant Islam and claimed those who disagreed with his approach to Muslims were hateful Islamophobes. So now if you confront someone because they're partnering with Rome or the Pope, or they're partnering with Islam and saying we all worship the same God, you're being called a hater. So, it's going on here. It says Phil Johnson, who was at G3 this year along with White, had previously disagreed with White's interfaith dialogue at the Judge Not conference. Now, isn't that interesting? Judge Not. You hear people say, only God can judge me. Well, I've also heard people answer that and say that should make you scared. That should actually cause fear in your heart. But stopped short of stronger criticism and took time to condemn Brandon Howells, although not necessarily by name, for anathematizing White for the foolish event. Nonetheless, not all at G3 thought well of his approach to the dialogue. So anyway, it says here, White's critics have primarily focused on the interfaith dialogue, advertising fellowship between Christians and Muslims. Now, 2 Corinthians 6:14 tells us that there is no fellowship between believers and idolaters, or light and darkness. What fellowship does light have with darkness? As a matter of fact, in my old church that I used to attend, like I said, I have very many beautiful people that I got to know there, but I left due to Freemasonry creeping into the church, Jesuitism not being confronted, Freemasonry not being confronted. There were Muslim interfaith dinners going on, both at the church and our pastor going to them. And my question was, is the gospel being preached? Are we going to compromise here, or are we going to preach the gospel to these people? And this falling away is taking place because people are compromising the truth of God for the sake of peace. And Jesus said in the scriptures, do not suppose I come to bring peace on the earth. I come to bring a sword. A man's mother will be against him. A husband would be against a wife, a mother, her daughter, or daughter-in-law. He says those people that are closest to you, members of your own household, will be your enemies for standing for the truth. So we need to realize in this last days that if your pastor or priest or wherever you attend a fellowship is compromising the true gospel of Christ for this ecumenical interfaith movement, you need to rethink where you're attending a fellowship. We cannot stay in a denominational label simply because this is how I've always done it, this is how I was raised. Is this leadership staying with the doctrine of Christ? The gospel tells us that if we do not keep to the doctrine of Christ, we do not have Christ. That's a serious thing. Jesus did not come to bring peace on the earth. He came to bring a sword of division between the wheat and the tares, between the goats and the sheep. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he said, Father, I do not pray for the world, but for those you have given me. Making a differentiation between the sheep and the goats, the wheat and the tares. So here we have Mr. White aligning himself with Islam, and people are questioning him over this and saying, why are you compromising the gospel? And these people that are, and of course, Rick Warren aligning himself with the Pope and Islam. So, and these people are coming from a Baptist background. And it used to be that you could trust Baptist theological seminaries and places like that to stay true to the scriptures. It seems every denomination is going the way of the Vatican and Rome, is going the way of compromising with this ecumenical movement, that these interfaith conferences, everybody get along, we all worship the same God, and we see in our lifetime this great falling away from the faith and no longer adhering to sound doctrine, but doctrines taught by demons. So please read what Christ said about himself in the Gospels. He is the way, the truth, the life. If there were any other way to God the Father, Jesus would have said so. So my question to people that compromise with that is Jesus himself lying to you? Would you call him a liar? And my usual response is, well, no, Jesus wouldn't lie. Well, then if he tells you he is the only door, the only gate, the only way to God, is he lying, or do all paths lead to God? And some people walk away frustrated, and others you can tell that there's a look of, I'm thinking about this. So plant seeds with people. Confront them with what Jesus said about himself, and then ask them, would Jesus lie to you? Do you believe he would lie to you? That he would? Even if they think Jesus is not, they don't believe he's God, that he's the one way, start off with appealing to them this way. Would Jesus lie to you? Is this ecumenical road that's being preached from Rome and all these other Protestant denominations that says that all paths lead to God, this, do not judge movement and harmony and peace and acceptance, is that the way? Or is it, no, Jesus came to bring a sword of division, stating he is the way, the truth, and the life, and there is no other way. He is the narrow way, he said, that few ever find. Broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many go that way, Jesus said. This ecumenical movement is a lie, and it is telling you that all faiths worship the same God and all paths lead to the same God. And there are many, both Catholic and Protestant, going this way. Jesus is either lying to you or he's telling you the truth when he said he is the only way, the narrow way that few ever find. God bless, and thank you for listening.